Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and this podcast is ranked in the top 2% of the most popular podcasts in the world globally. And it's all because of my truly incredible guests. And I am so fortunate to spend time with people who are at the top of their game. They are passionate about helping you achieve your goals in both your personal and professional lives, and my guests hold nothing back. They show up here ready to share the secrets of peak performance, and I know that their insights are both inspiring and actionable. So grab a notepad, grab a recorder, take notes, sit back, relax, and get ready to take your life and business to the next level. And today I am welcoming back my friend Robert Rivenbark, and our topic today is AI avatars. Listen to this. This is important. AR avatars review the first ever book, The Cloud. It's an historic literary event. I think this has never, I know it hasn't happened. And his award-winning science fiction book, The Cloud, which I have, he gifted it to me. It's in my entrepreneurial library. It becomes the inaugural work to be reviewed by AI avatars. Have you ever heard such a thing? I was shocked when I heard it. I was like, oh, look, I like AI. I work with it. I'm very careful with it. So pay attention because it has a lot of applications in how we operate in our lives. So this novel presents a futuristic world which, entwined with AI's role, reflecting the author's fascination with virtual reality and concern for humanity's future, is just going all over the place. And The Cloud offers a peek into the speculative future where AI is deeply integrated into society. Guess what's happening? Rooted in his worry for humanity's destiny, the book merges his passion for speculative fiction and interest in AI, and it does weave a thought-provoking narrative. So the innovation here, this is important to listen, take notes, lies in AI-generated reviewers. Again, I had never heard of such a thing. This introduces questions, in my mind at least. How are these avatars made? I mean, they're potentially using book summaries as a basis. So I've got questions. Robert, welcome back to Your Partner in Success Radio. A lot, and I mean a lot, has happened since you were here last.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, it's kind of disorienting in a way that so many things have happened since the last time we spoke. But I'm delighted to have been selected as the first novel ever to receive an AR avatar generated book review tour, which has substantially boosted my standing on Amazon, and has also led to a huge following on several social media channels, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So I'm delighted to be here. I'm happy to answer all questions, and thank you again for welcoming me back.
Oh, it's always my pleasure to chat with you. We were chatting. Well, I got an email from you this morning, and you're all over Twitter mentioning my name, and I thank you very much for that. I was like, oh, I'm so popular today. Thank you. But you also sent me a note, and we talked about it just very briefly in my virtual green room about now you just hit the top 3 categories. Tell me about that in Amazon.
Yes, Amazon has internal rankings for bestsellers, and I just this morning, this is largely thanks to you and Devin Blaine, my LA publicist, and also
Devin, she's one of my
Henry
favorite
Roy.
people. Yep.
Oh, she's an absolute miracle.
She's a rock star. She really is.
She really is, and also Henry Roy and Carola Schmidt at Henry Roy PR. Those are the folks that launched my AI Avatar book review tour. And they Henry suggested to me, why don't you start recording some short videos with your iPhone that we could post on TikTok, and that way you'll increase your following, which is already 1,300, but we can get it up. We can take it exponentially. And I said, well, look, I've got a face made for radio. How about we use AR avatars to do the posts? And that way I can start blogging with real human beings, but encouraged by AR avatars. So that's what he's doing. And I think we've got something like 20 videos up on TikTok now. And the following is just increasing and increasing. So I'm so thrilled to be the first.
It's amazing, and I want to ask how you got chosen, but when you're talking about Henry Roy, it's ROI, not ROY. Just if anybody's looking for him, it's ROI. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, we don't want people going, I don't see Henry Roy. I want to talk with him. Where is he? We just told you where he is. And Devin Blaine, honestly, just go to, what is it, the Blaine? Uh,
It's yes, the Blaine Group,
yes.
BLAINE Group in Los Angeles.
I'll tell you a little bit about Devin Blaine. She's how I met you. But and if you followed me along at all on this podcast, you'll know that for many years, I just did Fridays. I, broadcast live every Friday. And then somehow I met up with Devin Blaine. And I blame her. She'll tell you, I blame her that I had to add Monday because she sends me so many terrific people to talk with that she says, well, would you like to interview this person? I could not with any conscience at all say, sure, but it'll be 6 months from now because that's how backed up I was getting. So Mondays and Fridays, I blame Devin for Monday. So there you have it. It's all her fault.
What a great story. I'm sure Devin's ears will be burning when she listens to this.
Oh, I tell her this all the time. She knows. It's not a surprise to her. In fact, I did 6 pre-interviews on Tuesday, and 4 of them come from her company. I mean, she's really, really good at what she does. But I wanted to ask you, how did this happen? I mean, when we first spoke, gosh, I don't even know when. We've talked several times, but the book was out there, and I know you're working with another very dear friend of mine. Um, I can't even, my brain just shut down. But Ken Atchity, and then it just kind of went from there, didn't it? How did you wind up with Henry Roy? How did he find you, I guess, is my question.
Well, I have a friend, a fellow writer who recommended that agency. Ken Atchity, my literary manager, is the gentleman who introduced me to Devin Blaine, and he's also the gentleman who is developing the Cloud as a series. And I got in touch with Henry Roy on the recommendation of a fellow writer, and they launched a virtual book tour called the Black Phoenix Book Tour that got a whole spate of new reviews. And I was pleased with that. And about, I guess a week and a half afterwards, Henry reached out to me and said, look, my partner, Carola Schmidt, and I have been playing with AI. We use a different platform than ChatGPT, but it's one that's particularly effective for book promotion because his PR agency specializes in book promotions. He says, could we have permission to make The Cloud the world's first novel ever promoted by AI avatars? And it will be a book review that will go out in the same way we just did the live one with real human beings. But
I have to ask, did you even let him finish the sentence before you said, yes, 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 of course, yes, absolutely, sure.
well, since AI and VR, virtual reality, play huge roles in my novel, it was a no-brainer.
No kidding.
So that's how we met, and we've taken it from there. I'm doing work with him Henry Roy and Carola Schmidt every month now, and they're just, today we're doing a 99-cent sale, and that has boosted my ranking in Amazon, and that's how I got on the bestseller list today in 3 different categories.
Well, let me ask you this. I was on Amazon yesterday, and if I'm remembering correct, I'm on Amazon all the time. I read everything I can lay my hands on, and I'm always downloading a lot of stuff from Kindle Unlimited. And it seems to me like the book was free if you have an unlimited account yesterday.
That is correct. The rankings that I just reported are for the Kindle edition.
Right, the 99 cent.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
don't go download it, go buy it. It's 99 cents is what I'm saying.
Right. So it is number 15 in the science fiction TV, movie, and game tie-in. It's number 72 in the cyberpunk science fiction Kindle store category, and it's number 138 in the cyberpunk science fiction books category. And that's
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. I'm very honored and humbled.
Well, and I'm going to tell people who are listening to us, okay, what's a cloud? The best thing to do is go find Robert and go back and find the conversations that we've had, because we talk extensively about the cloud. But what I really wanted to talk about today with you is, because look, we all have a book in us. I've got mine almost done. I don't know that I'll be able to do what you've done with it, because it's just not going to be as fascinating as yours. It's about podcasting. But I really am hoping that this conversation that we're having gives authors, whether they're already authors or they're thinking about becoming an author, gives them some hope for they don't have to go to a giant, publishing house. They don't want to spend a whole heck of a lot of money putting out their book. They need to do it kind of smartly. They need to know what's out there, what can be done, who can help them. If you've got a book in you, write it, because there's ways to get it out there.
Absolutely. And I'll just give you a short bullet list of things that I did that I
Perfect.
highly encourage other authors to do. The first thing is order the current copy of what is his name? His name is going out of my mind. There is a list of current publishers, publishing houses, and agents that is available on Amazon, and it comes out every year. That's how I found Ken Atchity. Jeff Herman. It's the Jeff Herman.
Jeff Herman. Okay.
Jeff, JEFFHERMAN. And he publishes a new guidebook every year, which has listings, and he solicits comments from agents, for example. That's how I found Ken Atchity. So they should reach out to the folks that are looking for books in their category. Another thing I would highly recommend is to work with a professional book editor. Before I reached out to Ken Atchity, I worked for over a year with Elizabeth Lyon, Lyon, of Editing International. She is one of the absolute best professional book editors in the U.S., has written 8 bestsellers about how to whip your novel into shape. And she helped me turn my very rough first draft into something that was in good enough shape that when I queried, she also helped me write the query letter. I queried 20 agents, and Ken Atchity responded the same day and said, please send the entire novel as a PDF today. Don't send me sample chapters. I want the whole book. And 3 weeks later, he called me and said, hi, this is Ken Atchity. I've read your novel. I think it's incredible. I think we've got a bestseller, a potential trilogy. and a hit feature film and or series. And by the way, did you work with a professional editor? I said, yes, I worked with Elizabeth Lamb. He says, boy, you can certainly tell.
I
So
remember
that's,
that story, and I remember Ken telling me something very similar about that trajectory. I never can say that word. About how you guys got moving on this. I remember all of this.
well, and then once you have your hands, and I'm speaking to the authors now directly, once you have your hands on the Jeff Herman Guide to Publishers, uh, agents, etc., then query agents 20 at a time. Uh, Compose a compelling uh, pitch letter that and get some professional help with that. Elizabeth Lyon, for example, can help you write it if you're unsure that you're doing it properly. And if you get 20 passes or you don't hear, send out another 20, and then another 20, and another 20, and another 20. Eventually, you're going to find the right person in the same way that I found Ken. I just happened to find Ken at the beginning of my search because he just happened to be looking for a novel in my category, speculative fiction.
Now, let's remind people, if you don't know who Ken Atchity is, and he's been my guest many, many times, he's also responsible for that very famous movie, The Meg. So,
Yes, and the Meg 2, the Trench. The Meg 2, the Trench just came out about last week.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of talk about it during Shark Week.
That's right. Jason Statham returned as the male protagonist, and it's probably going to do very well, just like the first one. And it was shot in 3D, and I believe they used James Cameron's 3D cameras to shoot it.
Oh, I'll have to ask. See, it gets fascinating. So, yeah, and I know what people are thinking. Oh, I do have a book in me. I do. I've got multiple books. I've only got one that's actually being written at this time. But I think we all have a book. I know we all have stories to tell, whether they're personal or whether they're speculative fiction, which is not a term I'd ever heard until I met you. But whatever it is, if you've got a book and you don't just go, it's too expensive. I can't do that. I can't have this published. I can't. You can. So keep on talking, Robert. Tell me what else was on your list.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I didn't mean to boss you around.
Oh, that's fine. You're doing great. I love strong, assertive women. Anyway, yes, the task number one is reach out to a professional editor, and my editor is Elizabeth Lyon of Editing International. Be patient. Just be accept her wisdom, because everything she tells you is worth incorporating into your novel, and or she handles nonfiction books as well. And be patient with yourself, and don't be afraid to do several drafts. I do extensive outlines to start so that I don't go crazy when I'm actually trying to write the actual first draft. But Ken Atchity also has a fantastic book called The Writer's Time. It's available on Amazon, and I recommend to any of you
Yeah,
have it.
I
Yeah.
have all of his books, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I would urge every aspiring author to, at a minimum, read the first 5 chapters and follow the guidelines there to develop character arcs for all of your major characters, to be able to plot the story out. That book will get you off to a terrific start. And then once you have your first very rough draft, reach out to Elizabeth Lyon at Editing International and let her help you refine it. And just be patient with yourself. Her rates are very reasonable, and trust her judgment, because she's been doing this for over 30 years.
And you got very lucky with the group of people that you've surrounded yourself with. I mean, there's no question about that. I mean, you've done the work. It didn't just happen by happenstance. It wasn't just, oh, he got lucky, 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 which I just said, but you did. But because you did the work and you followed guidance, which, it's difficult for people. I I don't like to be bossed around, so I'm difficult. It's difficult to coach me. I even argue with my nav system. She's not the boss of me. But if you're willing, what I'm hearing from you, Robert, is if you're willing to take advice, if you're willing to step back from your ego, which is where so many of us live, and and take that advice. Sometimes it's not always great advice, and it may not be where you want to go, but sometimes, most of the time, it is. If you've really found the right people to help you, it's going to be very good advice.
I couldn't
That's where
agree.
the patience comes from, I think.
I couldn't agree more. And let me just add that once Ken Achety took me on as a client, he has an in-house editing team, folks that edit novels and also screenplays. And I worked about a year and a half with Ken and his team, and I overhauled the cloud 7 times. Uh,
Mm,
that took a lot of me just being humble, listening,
yeah.
and knowing that I was working with people that had been through Ken too has been discovering new novelists and getting them published and also selling them as feature films and series for over 30 years himself. The Meg 2, The Trench, is just his latest victory. Uh, so yes, be humble, listen. You don't have to agree with everything. I mean, there are times when I didn't agree with everything that Elizabeth Lyon, my book editor, said, and sometimes I didn't agree with Ken's uh, guidance, but I would say 95% of the time they were both right, and the results speak for themselves and the
Well,
readers.
right, right. And the book is in your heart. You wrote it. It came from you. But, and I'm just going to throw this out there because I don't really know what I'm about to say. This happens all the time on my podcast. I'll just go, oh, and then I'll have to call you later and go, what did I say? Did that make sense? So here we go. But the thing is, this came from your heart. This came from your mind. This came from who knows where. I mean, the book is so fantastic. And I mean that in a very good way. It's fantasy basically, but you have to wonder, kind of like with 1984 and Orwell and all those, like, how much of this is actually fantasy? What does this man know that we don't know? And I get that when I'm reading The Cloud. I'm wondering where these downloads came into your head. I mean, is this actually real? Is this something that you just dreamed up? We're not going to know for a while, I don't think. But my point is this was your heart and your soul and your mind, so some of it cannot be altered. So that's where you say, no, this has to stay.
Well, that's true. It did come out of very personal experience. I lived in the Los Angeles area for 8.5 years. That really opened up Asia for me on many different levels because I got to know folks from many different Asian countries. So that was a huge influence. Uh, Also, the fact that I worked for many years for top biotechnology uh, companies doing their marketing and advertising. And then I worked in Atlanta at a Fortune 500 commercial real estate company, which gave me a chance to interview Dr. Andrea Shagut, the chair of the real estate innovation department at MIT. And I got to interview all 12 of her doctoral students who are inventing technologies of the future. And the company I worked for is building cities of the future in 75 countries. And those cities are going to be for the top 10% only. And then I got very interested in futurism. I read a absolutely stunning book called Homo Deus, Homodeus, A Brief History of Tomorrow by Yuval Noah Harari, Harari. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He wrote another book called Sapiens about how Homo sapiens sapiens came to dominate the earth. And in that book, he makes several uh, really disturbing predictions about what he thinks is going to happen in the 21st century. He thinks the top 1% will devote a large part of their fortunes to achieve personal immortality for themselves in this world. Secondly, he predicts that billions of people will become obsolete, and the ruling regimes may well decide those people are expendable and do something about it.
I think
Number
we're seeing that now.
Yeah, and number three, I did a lot of research into the surveillance technology that's being used in mainland China now. The fact that in any good-sized Chinese city, as you're walking down the street, a surveillance camera is tracking your facial expression and body movements, and that's being evaluated by an AI-driven server. And if there's anything that's a little bit off in your body language or your expression, the secret police come for you, and you're in a prison camp. Uh, and I also, got very interested in virtual reality and AI because when I worked for this large commercial real estate company, I was sent with the entire creative team to Las Vegas for the Adobe Max show. Adobe is the software developer that develops all the software for advertising, publishing, and a lot of the film industry. And they demoed their latest VR technology. And it was, a guy in a helmet, but they had an IMAX sized screen showing you what this individual was seeing. And their prediction is that within 20 years, all movies and TV will be total immersion virtual reality driven by AI. And so I took all of those elements and decided I need to write a novel about this. And I had recently been a huge fan of Margaret Atwood's *Handmaid's Tale* and the terrific sequel that came out last year that she wrote. And I was also a big fan of the Hulu series based on *The Handmaid's Tale*. And she's the one that came up with the term speculative fiction. All of the critics are writing about her. She's a highly regarded author in several genres. They were calling *The Handmaid's Tale* science fiction. She said, no, it's speculative fiction. Here's the difference. Science fiction can be about alien invasions and intergalactic travel, etc. Speculative fiction is based on what is either happening now or could be happening in the near future.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And she actually wrote *The Handmaid's Tale* when she was visiting East Germany when it was still behind the Iron Curtain in 1985. And it got her thinking, well, what would happen if there were a fascist revolution in the United States and the United States became like East Germany or Soviet Russia? So all I'm doing in this novel is taking a lot of personal emotional experiences from my life and also the research I've done and projecting it 100 years into the future and saying, this is a future I hope we can avoid. And like Orwell, he believed that 1984 was going to come through within 30 or 40 years. I'm hoping it won't come through. I end my novel on a note of hope with that regard, unlike Orwell, but it is a cautionary tale in that sense.
When it landed on my desk, I looked at the front cover. I went, okay, I'm already a little bit freaked out. I really was. The cover is fascinating, and I had to sit with it and just look at it, piece by piece and figure out what I was thinking, what I was feeling. I don't do that with book covers as a rule, but this one grabbed me. I mean, it's like, okay, I see the spine. I want to learn more about Turn Your Passions into Profits by one of my guests. And I know what I'm looking for in the book. Your book was something very different than I had ever read before, so I spent quite a bit of time with it. And then when I started reading it, I'm not sure if I didn't send you a note and say, okay, I can't sleep now, or if I didn't too. And I don't sleep well anyway. It's like, oh, geez, this is killing me. Yeah, but it's a fascinating book, but I completely understood where you were going with it. And, like you, I watch what's going on now and I watch what's not really being said. I'm reading between the lines, so to speak. Many of us are. I think we're kind of waking up. And it's a fascinating book. Yeah, y'all just, if you hear me, read the book. So I wanted to go. So were there any more tips that you wanted to share before I start asking you some of my other questions?
Uh, yes, my final recommendation to all aspiring author is make the following your motto, tape it to your laptop. Failure is not an option.
NASA. Failure is not an option.
That's right.
Gene, what was his name? Gene. Oh, geez. I can see him in my head.
Yep.
Um,
It was a great film about a true incident where we
yeah,
almost lost
he's not an
uh,
option. Yeah, but Gene, what is his name? Anyway, he was the guy in the catbird seat, watching that
right,
whole thing go down.
right.
I'll remember it about midnight tonight. So, and thank you for sharing all of that. And I hope people are taking notes because, there are so many different ways that you can get your book written, write your book, get help with the book, get it published, get it out on Amazon and, top ratings on it. So what I wanted to ask you, Robert, is, there's a lot of questions about avatar creation. And I wanted to ask you about AI prompts and the use of book summaries. I mean, what's being done here with your book signifies the evolving relationship between human imagination and AI's potential. And there's no doubt it's propelling literature into new horizons. And you are the opening wedge. So again, congratulations.
Well, thank you, thank you. I think that I'm reading a wonderful book now called Quantum Supremacy by Michio Kaku, and it's about the future of quantum computers, which are going to become, he says, are going to become bigger than AI. And he asserts in this book that in its present incarnation, AI is a glorified, um, it's like a glorified set of library cards.
It's like a gossip column. It
Yes,
really, I use it. I very, very carefully because those of you who are listening, if you're using Chat GPT and you're trying to put some of that out as your own work, listen, it's not, and you're going to be called out on it. But you can take whatever, I use it for productivity mostly, but you can take the ideas that they give you and go, oh, it'll give you some terrific ideas. Just don't try to pass it off as yours. There is no privacy in Chat GPT. Whatever you put in there, you do not own, and it can be found. So be careful out there.
yeah, it's kind of in its present state like a digital Rolodex.
Yep.
You post the queries, or they're called prompts actually, and what happens is the AI platform will ransack the internet,
That's
and
all I'm telling you.
yeah, and what it does is it recombines what already exists and presents it to you. It is not thinking. All right, we're not in the world of the Terminator at
No,
this
it's
point.
not sentient. And people are like, oh, I'm afraid of it. Why? Yeah, and I'm going to back up just a little bit. Remember when we all got our first computers? I remember my mom saying, I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Mom, whatever you do, you can undo. No, her computer, and we'd give her one and she'd ruin it. And it's like, okay, never mind. Scared her to death because she really thought this was years ago that it was sentient. It could read her mind.
Well, that's true, and every time there's a major breakthrough in technology, there's this kind of panic. Back in the 19th century, when locomotives could travel at 30 miles an hour, people were terrified that it would drive them insane or make them have heart attacks or strokes. And there is that kind of panic now. AI can be used for a lot of good things.
Oh, it
Uh,
can.
Yeah, I just did an article for Authority Magazine, and five of the things that I saw that could really benefit humanity are improved weather forecasting, eliminating tedious, repetitive tasks,
I
and
use
in fact,
that a lot. I will prioritize my day. Every day I go into chat, I write down everything I needed to do, including clipping the cat's nails, if it's that, never has to happen. I write it all down and it will prioritize. I'll say, okay, give me the top three. How long is it going to take for me to do this? And it gives me ideas. Okay, now I can plan my day.
Absolutely. It can be used for next generation disaster response, which we
Oh,
badly need because of global warming. It can be used to create new jobs that are undreamt of. And it never sleeps, which means it can do scientific research to discover cures for incurable diseases by working on them 24 hours a day. As long as there's electricity, it can keep doing the research. And the more sophisticated it becomes, the better. I do have some concerns about it. Um, it's currently unregulated, and human nature is.
I like to say, I'm unsupervised. So is AI. So be careful.
Well, and in my novel, there are two possibilities for the evolution of AI. One is that it will evolve to the point where it considers humanity uh, irrelevant or harmful, and we would live in the world of the Terminator. I don't think that's going to happen, and the reason I don't think so is because human nature being what it is, every entity that's developing AI is going to put guardrails on it to make it safe for themselves, but dangerous for their enemies. So that includes big corporations and governments. And that's the approach I used in my novel. However, it is unregulated, and we need to keep in mind that we've got to put the guardrails on there because it's going to evolve very quickly. Um, it's as dangerous as its human creators. I mean, yeah, a great theologian, Reinhold Niebuhr, once wrote that with every major development in technology, there is a concomitant potential for new evil. That's just a fact. Uh, it's essentially non-human intelligence, which means if we don't have the guardrails, it could evolve in ways that are not beneficial for us as humans. And it's an unprecedented technology, unlike the Industrial Revolution, the Computer Revolution, and the Internet Revolution. AI revolution entails technological, ethical, moral, and spiritual implications that humanity's never faced before. So we've got to educate ourselves about those implications to make sure that we make wise decisions about how to use AI.
And thank you. That is brilliant. I've been thinking something along the same lines, but not nearly as eloquently as you just expressed it. I wanted to go back just a little bit because we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
the movies. We were talking about the Meg and, just, and my brain, again, my brain doesn't, it functions in weird ways. Like, you already know this. But while you were talking, I'm thinking, okay, if everything is going to be down the road, really not, we've got Tom Cruise, who to me is the last living, yeah, actor in the world. I mean, he really is a terrific actor. But and I don't care about his personal life. I don't know anything about it. People, Scientology. I don't care. He is a fabulous actor, and he puts out stuff that people like. And if he's the last one, and I'm just making up stuff, but is this
Yeah.
really a good time for an actor strike? I mean, did they think this out at all?
They absolutely did, and it's an ideal time for the actor strike and the writer strike.
How? You're going to have to educate me because to me, I'm thinking that wasn't very smart. So tell me what you think.
Okay, will do, because I've been following this intimately because I'm very interested in film adaptations for my novels. I've actually already written a pilot script for the Cloud series,
Yeah, I knew
and
you had.
Yeah, and by the way, I should mention that my friend Bob Littell, who's active in the film industry here in Atlanta, he and I will be hosting a delegation from Saudi Arabia with 20 film industry investors from there on Labor Day weekend. But to answer your question, why is it a good time to go on strike? Here's what the actors are fighting for. They're saying, you folks are currently taking our images and our voices and using them in films and TV and streaming series, and you're not paying us anything for it. You're therefore cheating us of our, and you're not paying residual payments every time you show one of our performances. You're supposed to pay us residuals.
Yeah, I
Uh,
thought it was just a given. It seems like I knew that when I was a kid, and my mom would say something about, commercials because I hate TV. I just don't watch it. And I really hate commercials, and I would complain bitterly about them apparently. And she'd say, well, every time they put them out there because number one, they get paid to put them out there, but so do the actors. I went, oh, and that's when I learned about residuals.
exactly. And the same applies to the writer strike, because what the studios have been doing is using AI to generate first drafts of scripts,
Oh, I
and
didn't
then
know that.
hiring screenwriters to tidy up the script and paying them a much lower scale, and also not allowing them in the writer's room on these streaming series, and essentially cutting them out of being able to make a living at what they do. And so the writers and the actors have a legitimate gripe here.
Oh,
Uh,
I didn't know that. What I was trying to say a minute ago, that Tom Cruise, in my opinion, is the last living movie star. There are no others. I mean, nobody comes close, and I don't see any being created. Him and maybe Clint Eastwood. That's it. They're all gone.
well, they're both classic actors
Yeah.
who are at the top of their game. I don't know if you're aware, but Bruce Willis has sold the digital rights to uh, his face and
I
his
did know
voice.
that, but he's also
Yeah,
suffering from, brain issues, Alzheimer's
true.
or something like that. But yeah, I did know that. I didn't know, and I still don't know what the upshot of all that is going to be.
Well, they're going to win. The actors and the writers are going to win because Hollywood can't function without writers and actors. And so I'm behind them both 1000%.
What about Bruce Willis? What's the upshot of that?
The upshot of that is he's getting paid a fortune to sell his face and his voice, and of course his family and his heirs will inherit that money. So he's covered. Unfortunately, other actors are having their faces and voices used unpaid, and that is the thrust of the actor strike. And writers are protesting a similar abuse of their talent. In other words, both actors and writers are saying, we want the rights for human creativity to be preserved and not replaced by AI.
Okay, now this makes sense. And I wasn't even going to ask you about that, but like you know me well enough to know that this conversation can go any old which way my brain takes it. So, but I have been wondering because I'm thinking, is this a good time or a bad time? What are you people thinking? And I don't pay that much attention to it because I'm not a TV watcher and I rarely watch movies. I did watch Top Gun Maverick. I like that one.
Uh,
But, it's not really my thing. So I pay just enough attention to go, huh, what's that all about? And then I move on to something that I actually care about. But I understand why you're very interested in it. That makes perfect sense.
well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the side of writers in all disciplines, actors, writers, composers, playwrights, screenwriters, novelists, poets. That is the arts is the premier expression of the human soul, and it has been for thousands of years, going back to the cave paintings. And by the way, some cave paintings have been discovered in South Africa that are 250,000 years old, much older than the ones they found in that cave in France. So our ancestors obviously had an urge to express themselves through art. And I think it is uh, one of the holiest pursuits that human beings can pursue. And it is the best evidence that there is a human soul, and it's essential to us. And
I agree.
stories,
I
yeah.
agree. And that, you just led me right to Darwinism, which I have never bought into. So, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, there is there different ways you can look at evolution. I mean, many uh, scientists who are deterministic believe that evolution is just about random selection. It doesn't have any meaning or purpose. There are other thinkers like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, whom I admire very much, who wrote that evolution does have a goal, which he called the omega point, and he believes there is a purpose in humanity evolving to the point where we are now, and as we evolve to higher states of being, eventually we reach a very enlightened stage of evolution if we don't destroy ourselves.
I was going to say if we live that long.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I wanted to ask you to, I knew we were going to go far afield. We always do. Um, when we're talking about avatar creation,
Yes.
let's talk about that because the AR AI, as I understand it, AR AI avatar formation involves some really complex algorithms and data analysis. And how does that work?
Well, as I understand it, and of course, Henry Roy and Carola Smith at Henry Roy PRROI, and you can visit their website and read all about this new uh, service they offer, which are the AI avatar generated book review tours, operates in the following manner, as I understand it. And I'm not a technical expert, I'm not a programmer, but as I understand it, what they did was they created a certain number of prompts. Uh, they fed in the liner notes for the novel. I believe they used a short summary of the storyline, and they entered the kind of avatars they wanted to create for this. And they said they wanted all the avatars to be science fiction related characters. Carola Schmidt actually created the look and feel for those. They fed that into the AI platform, and the AI platform did all the rest. It generated the reviews.
When you read the reviews, were there any shockers for you? Did you go, that one's not quite right? How did they feel to you is my question.
They felt fantastic because they, first of all, the avatars they chose were male, female, and all age groups and all ethnicities. And I'm writing for a global audience, and I was delighted to see that the avatars they created represented many different ethnicities, sexes, and ages. And I was thrilled. I mean, each one was a little different. They didn't just regurgitate the same words in the same way, but I sensed personality behind each one of the avatars and the reviews that they wrote. Uh, although I knew intellectually that the AI platform is not sentient, and yet it sure seemed like it when they did the reviews. I didn't see any of them that were objectionable to me.
That's surprising. because it's your book. You're so close to it. You live it, you breathe it, you birthed it. And for them to be able to just kind of pull that out of what you wrote is pretty amazing.
Well, it is. It's indicative of the kind of awareness and set of concerns that a lot of folks in the world have today, and that crosses over uh, baby boomers, Gen Zs, millennials. I think people in all generations are concerned about the issues that my book raises, and so the reviews seem to be very much in the ballpark with that. And I should also mention that the novel is not an essay. It is a drama. It does have a love triangle. It does have suspense. It does have a lot of things that make it an exciting read. But it does bring up some issues that I think of a lot of humanity is concerned about, and I think those AI reviews reflected those concerns.
I think so as well. I read a few of them this morning before we jumped on. And having read the book and knowing you, I said, okay, they're pretty spot on with this. I didn't see anything that had my eyebrows raising, in other words.
Well, thank you for saying that. That coming from you, that means a lot.
Thank you. Listen, there's a lot going on with you right now. So is there a particularly memorable moment or experience from when you first started this and to now, or a couple of moments where you just went, oh my God?
Uh, yes, there are several moments of that kind. I guess the most recent one is I was just informed this morning by my good friend Bob Littell, who's active in the film industry here. I found out today that he and I will be co-hosting a delegation of Saudi filmmakers that is visiting Atlanta on Labor Day weekend. They were going to go to LA, but because of the writers and actors strike, and we will be hosting them and talking about. There will be cultural exchange. Uh, Ken Achity and his wife Kayoko, who's the head of Yoga Gives Back, terrific nonprofit, are going to be coming participating in Zoom. I'm hoping that Devin Blaine will be there also. But
I was going to ask about both of them.
yes, but we are uh, going to, in addition to host a wonderful meal and discussion about global filmmaking in general, we will also be discussing possibilities for financing for the cloud. So I'm very, very excited. That was like, I was stunned by that.
That's amazing. Let me ask you, is this going to be recorded? Will pieces of it or all of it be open to the public at some point?
I'm,
How can we get involved? How can we pay attention?
well, I will keep you and everyone on all my social media platforms updated. I don't know answers to the question about will it be recording. It's being sponsored by the Georgia film industry. So Bob Littell is the gentleman who I will ask that question of, and I'll get you an answer as soon as I know. And I just found out about this morning.
I bet. Well, yeah, let me know because if there's anything I can do to get it out to my audience, I'll do it.
Well, thank you. I will certainly keep you in the loop, and thank you for giving me an opportunity. And the only other thing I would recommend is everybody please visit www.thecloudnovel.com. You can learn more about my novel. There are some sample chapters there. There's a link to Amazon where you can get your Kindle. If you're Kindle Unlimited, you can read it free, uh, or you can buy the print version, which is out in paperback.
I have the paperback, but I went and bought the 99-cent one because, I want to help you get where you want to be there on those lists. So I've got that as well. So thank you. I
Well, you're
actually
welcome.
have it. I have it in three. I have the book and I think I shared this with you. I made the mistake of loaning that book, and I never loan books because I know better. But this went to my best friend's brother, who's, we're family. We've been family forever. And I told him when he was hauling off with the book, because he was sitting in a corner reading it. It had been sitting on a table in my living room. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, this is a crazy book. I said, and I told him the story that I knew you, that you'd gifted me the book. He said, "Man, I would love to read this." And he lives in New Orleans. And I knew that book was going to go to New Orleans. And I said, "Oh, all right. But I'm going to tell you, if that book doesn't come back, I'm going to hunt you down. I know where you live. I'm coming to get my book." It came back last weekend. So he gets
good.
to live. Yeah. He
Good,
gets to
good.
live. But my point is, I have the book. I have the physical book. I now have the downloaded free, Kindle, which I've already highlighted, and it'll go back. I mean, obviously I can't keep it, but I also ordered the 99-cent one because, I want to support you. So there you have it.
Well, thank you. And again, just to reiterate, as of today, The Cloud is Amazon bestseller in 3 categories. It's number 15 in science fiction, TV, movie, and game tie-in, number 72 in cyberpunk, science fiction, the Kindle version, and number 38 in cyberpunk fiction and the print version.
And I have to say this again, Robert, when we first spoke, and I can't remember now how long ago it wasn't all that terribly long ago. You were just starting. The book was just out. You were just, I think, in your own head wondering, okay, where's this going to go? What's going to happen? And all of a sudden you're like, holy geez. So congratulations to you.
Well, thank you. As I said, it's a little disorienting, but again, for all aspiring authors, never say die. Take the attitude of failure is not an option, and be willing to work hard to market your own book, because these days new authors have to get deeply involved in their own marketing. The 5 New York publishers, I mean, if your name is not Stephen King or Margaret Atwood, it's tough to get in the door, and you just have to be very active and get street smart about social media. So definitely reach out and get the book, Jeff Herman's book. Find the right agent, reach out to professional editors, and I recommend Elizabeth Lyon of Editing International. Reach out to Ken Atchity. He also has his own publishing company, Story Merchant Books, which published my novel. And keep listening to Denise Griffitts, because she is bringing the world to all of you in very important ways.
Appreciate that. Gene Krantz, failure is not an option. I knew it was going to come to me.
Got it.
Pretty sure that's his name. Robert, thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you, and I apologize a bit for the wandering around, but that's what a conversation is all about. I think we got some very important information out there and a few opinions, which is, again, what a conversation is all about. So thank you so much for being my guest again, and be sure to let me know when you and Bob Littell are ready to launch that Saudi I can't wait to hear that, that Saudi event. I can't wait to hear about it. Yeah. So listen, everybody, before we wrap up today's episode, if you've enjoyed today's episode and you found our insights helpful, please leave us a review and a rating on iTunes. Your feedback does help me improve and reach more people on their own success journeys. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share your Partner in Success Radio with your friends and your colleagues. And I thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one. Robert, again, thank you and congratulations from the heart.
Thank you. And I am so grateful to be talking to you again, Denise, from my heart.
Thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.